Hey folks, welcome back to Jack's Corner, where truth and reality have a seat at the table. Now, as you have come to know, that is my typical lead-in to my podcast, but that's because you have to dig for the truth, because man loves to bury it. And it's unquestionable that we're out of touch with reality. And the most recent example is the Democrats who do not want any voter ID, even when polling shows over 80% of the people, including Democrats, approve of the need for voter ID, but not the Democrat leaders in Congress. Here again, this is a detachment from reality, as I have pointed out in so many other instances and on so many other issues. It's a detachment, that is, if you're going to honor your oath to your office to protect the Constitution and the public's freedoms, the freedoms of this country, the freedoms that so many have died for, the freedoms that our forefathers gave us. But then let's look at it from another perspective. Maybe we, the people, have become so immoral and detached from reality that we have become quite comfortable with the corrupt left who is destroying us. This disease of the mind, which I call a psychosis, that quickly finds membership and camaraderie among the left, they all share the same destiny and live in the same futility, with the only thing that quenches their darkened souls is their rule over you. That's what they desire, and they find it so easy, and their distractions are so many. So with that lead in, I want to jump into today's topics that are of significantly greater importance to your life, liberty, and happiness. The most important bill before Congress right now, and in fact in the Senate now, is the SAVE Act, which would protect the integrity of elections. It doesn't surprise me that the leftist Democrats don't want this bill, because they cannot win elections without cheating. And that is not an opinion, folks. It's an established fact. The only way that they could find a way to stay in power is through cheating. Given the demographic shifts in this country, what they had to do is flood the country with people who were prone to vote for them, because, think about it, all these people are coming from failed countries that they destroyed with the same type of liberalism, and they're voting. Look at the Somalis, for instance, in Minnesota, who concentrated in such great numbers in that state, and they turned it permanently blue because the way they voted. And why did they do that? Because they were getting paid off by the Democrats. The Democrats would pass bills, and they were only able to stay in power because they made a deal with the Somalis, that the Somalis would continue to support Democrats. And so the Democrats took in all this money. And in the process, they defrauded all of us as taxpayers to the tune of $9 billion. Some say it goes up to $19 billion. This scheme has been repeated in all the blue states. The Democrats do this. They're fraudulent. That's the only way that they can stay in power. Folks, the only way to keep your country from being taken from you is to keep the Democrat left from being elected, and that requires the SAVE Act, which requires a voter ID, of which every poll shows that approximately 82% of you support it. But the Democrat Party, who has been taken over by those who believe in the communist principles, are blocking its passage. Then we have the booming economy with a stock market that has been breaking records, which is so important for millions of you who have 401ks and retirement plans. According to President Trump's financial advisors, the country could very well soon see a GDP growth of 6%. That's unheard of. Your wages are already up and the prices are down, but they want you to believe otherwise. The one thing we need to get rid of is the Federal Reserve Chairman, who is keeping interest rates artificially up, and they shouldn't. And that keeps many of you, and particularly the youth, from buying homes. But let me divert here just a minute. You're all caught up in this affordability, but you have to take responsibility for what you did in voting for Biden, who spent $1.5 trillion, caused inflation to go up to a 40-year high, and now the bills come due. But now you want Trump to fix it just like that? You're crazy if you think that that's going to happen. He's doing marvelous things, and the economy is roaring back. But you've got to give it time. But you need to close your ears to the deceitful and manipulative lies of the Democrats. The economy is fabulous. But these are some of the stories that you're not hearing. Now, as you've heard before, the old saying that all elections are local, that's not so anymore. What happens in one part of the country, particularly with how close the numbers are in both the House and the Senate, every vote counts in every election, and every election counts. I don't care if it's a dog catcher. So with that, I want to warn you of the danger of a Jimmy Carter 2.0. For those of you who are too young to remember, Jimmy Carter was routed out of office in a landslide by Ronald Reagan. Carter was listed until Obama and Biden as the worst president in America's history because during Jimmy Carter's presidency, he gave us 21% interest rates, around 11% unemployment rates, and 12% inflation rates. The nation was an economic disaster, and we were a disgrace around the world. We were disgraced around the world, and not only did Carter help create the radical Islamic regime of Iran today, once that regime took power in Iran from an ally of ours, those same radicals took our embassy staff as hostages. That's the kind of disaster that this Democrat leftist Carter was. Now, this short, sawed-off, mean-spirited, egotistical little man deceived so many Christians because he kept using the term born again. That's all it took for some naive, understudied people who claimed to be Christian needed to hear. And they gobbled up Carter's fraud, and the world paid a deadly price for it. So with that, let me begin with what I call the heretic governor of Kentucky, who is a dangerous Jimmy Carter 2.0. Governor Andy Beshear only squeaked in as governor by 5,500 votes in a deeply red state because of libertarian fools and the corrupt Marxist-minded type teachers' unions. Beshear has decided that he's going to attempt a replay of Jimmy Carter's strategy of running for president by pretending to be a Southern moderate Democrat. Folks, there is no such thing. Beshear is a radical left and radical leftist as any Democrat out on the left coast is. Oh, and how could we forget this picture? Take a look at this. See, Beshear has no moral code or morality that guides him. It's his unbridled passion for power and affirmation wherever he can get it and however he can get it. To my fellow Kentucky citizens, I say, when you see Beshear on the show The View, you have to know that you made a big mistake. We saw him display his leftist credentials on that radical show. Beshear is a governor in a red state only because of the radical teachers union who out-organized Republicans, conservatives, and Christians. After all, how easy can it be to beat those who always manufacture excuses as to why they can't do their civic duty? So to Mr. Beshear, in your recent heretical use of scriptures to justify your position on cultural issues, I will say this, and unabashedly so, you're no Christian. You are a wolf in sheep's clothing. Not just what you have said recently, but your record proves it here in Kentucky. And now you want to threaten the rest of the nation with it. And I'm, for one, wanting to let the rest of the country know just exactly who you are in Kentucky. You're a fraud, and you always have been a fraud, and the record stands there to prove it. Your liberal church that you attend won't save you. Neither will another title. God will not be mocked, Andy, and you have racked up many offenses in the name of Christianity. You are the proverbial wolf in sheep's clothing, and for the true Christian, your job has been made easier to spot other fakes within the faith because support of this heretic governor is warning enough as to who is a true brethren and who is not. Andy Beshear, the governor of Kentucky, who is the biggest social climber that I've seen in my lifetime, and an empirically proven pathological liar, is now using Scripture and twisting the Bible to justify his stance on queer agenda, transgenderism, open borders, and the likes. So here again is my warning to Mr. Beshear. God will not be mocked, and that's exactly what you're doing, having embraced the Democrat platform that contains everything that God hates. You have no assurance of salvation, but rather damnation. Just as you know a tree by its fruit, I ask Kentucky and everyone across this nation who may be seeing more and more of this man to look at his record. His overridden vetoes in Kentucky outnumber all of the other governors in Kentucky's history combined. The very things that he takes credit for today are the very things he vetoed. Whatever is going well in Kentucky today is not because of Beshear. Let's take taxes, for instance. We have halved the taxes in Kentucky, the income tax, but he vetoed it. Nothing that is prospering in Kentucky is a result of Beshear because the record shows he vetoed and opposed it. Don't get sucked into his duplicity. He will pay the price for his unbridled ambition, but until he does, don't find yourself paying the price as well. Dr. Moeller, president of the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary and the largest seminary in the world to which I had the privilege of attending for a small stint in my career, has come out not only warning of Beshear's deception, but has pointed out how Governor Beshear dishonestly and theologically twisted Scripture in an attempt to fool naive people into thinking that his radical leftist Democrat positions have some spiritual value or virtue. They do not. Moeller has roundly condemned Beshear for how he has twisted and tried to weave dishonest Christian doctrine into supporting and disguising the radical leftist positions that he's taken. Governor Beshear is no moderate, folks. He is a radical leftist, just like the rest of his record is replete with all of the examples of how radical he is. Here is an area where listeners can make a difference and hold those accountable who need it. Kayleigh Bush, in 2024, winner of the Miss North Florida Beauty Contest, has revealed that she was stripped of her Miss America title because she refused to sign a contract that would have forced her to accept transgenderism. Oh my gosh, folks, you need to find out where these decision makers are and rout them out of your society, ostracize them. The beauty queen claims that she was asked to sign a replacement contract several months after she won. Bush says the contract contained new language affirming transgenderism. That should have nothing to do with the beauty contest. But this new language, it was something that was in there and she refused to sign it. Well, good for her. No, I haven't been able to determine whether or not Ms. Bush's people have determined to take any action, legal action that is, but regardless of my listeners in the area where the decision makers live, you do need to take action. I don't know whether you've taken action or not, but remember, these types of things happen because people who make the decisions are never held to any accountability. Don't just go after the offense, go after the offender. Go after the perpetrator. Go after the root of the problem. Dig that weed up by the roots. The reason this is so significant is that once these hedonists that infect our society realize that they could be at significant risk if they continue to pull their dirty tricks, the news will spread to the rest of them, and we will shut down the manufacturers of injustice. It all lies within your hands. Find out who these people are, where they live, and let them know of your displeasure, and spread the word like a virus so that these types of people cannot live amongst us in peace. Ostracize them. They're destroying our society and culture. Again, it's all up to you. Okay, here's a plan for those in Louisiana. Judge John DeGravelis, appointed by Barack Obama, of course, released 4 violent criminals back into American communities, and unfortunately, the ramifications will only be the continued rape, murder, and assault and robbery of more American victims. According to the Assistant Department of Homeland Security Secretary Tricia McLaughlin, These 4 that were released were criminal illegal aliens convicted of murder and child sex crimes from ICE custody. Folks, these bad actors that are making these terrible decisions aren't flying around the earth in some untouchable spacecraft or spaceship far from your reach. They are living in homes and subdivisions right near you. And all the while, they are undermining your security and safety. They want you to play nice with them and embrace them in your cozy community while they quietly destroy you. It's time to write those letters, folks, and make complaints to the committees and organizations, such as, in this instance, the Judicial Retirement and Disciplinary Committees, and then go to your newspapers and spread the word around in your churches, synagogues, and wherever you worship that this person who has the title of judge did injustice by placing you and your children at risk. If it's an impeachable offense, then you need to be complaining to your federal senators and congressmen. If it's a local judge or a Supreme Court judge of the state, then you as a private citizen can file a petition with your legislature and get them removed. Even if removal is not successful, at least they will have a bright spotlight shown on them for the future. Folks, guess what? You're paying their salary, and they're doing these things to you. And what are you doing about it? All too often, nothing. You see, the action plans that I give you are very simple, and so many of them are local and maybe right next, and these people are right next door to you. So once you start exercising your rights and shining that bright spotlight of the truth onto these wicked people who are making these decisions, the word will spread not just throughout your community, but the nation, that this type of conduct will no longer be tolerated. We've been guilty of toxic toleration. Now, here's a famous quote that you should remember. Diversity does not make a nation. This is from former U.S. Supreme Court Justice Antonin Scalia, one of the greatest to ever sit on the bench. We have a culture, the American culture. Every nation has one, and every nation has a right to one. And the traitorous left in this country, through immigration, want to destroy our country by dumping all of the failed cultures and incompatible cultures of the world into our country as if it were a blender, destroying any distinctiveness, particularly that which made us the most powerful and richest country in history. The left, in their fake and false compassion, will say that we are a nation of immigrants. But if you will reflect back, it was mainly from the West, the Irish, the Germans, the Italians, the French. It was a Judeo-Christian background. Today, you hear the Democrat left and particularly the white leftists and the liberals always attacking whiteness as if they want to abolish whiteness. While it is all fake and a lie to gain political advantage amongst those who lack any syllogistic thinking or discernment, just for an argument's sake, let's assume that they really do hate their own whiteness. Of course, we already have seen this from a psychotic legislator in Kentucky, which went viral last month.
I'm going to be honest. I don't feel good about being white every day for a lot of reasons. Because it's a point of privilege that I get to move through the world in a way that so many of my other colleagues and friends and family members of the community don't get the privilege to do.
This is significant because it speaks of and indicates a psychological illness. This self-hatred or self-loathing is usually described as a mood or personality disorder or depressive syndrome or narcissism. And as with so many of the Democrat politicians on the left, particularly Kentucky's I want to be president, Governor Beshear, it's a sanctimonious attitude desiring to be seen by others as having attributes and virtues such as being righteous and good. Why would you ever listen to, much less trust anyone who hates themselves because of their color and by extension hates you? Fortunately, most of the country doesn't buy it. That's why the Democrat left has to flood the country with illegal aliens. Now, here's another national problem that finds its roots, unfortunately, in Kentucky. My fellow Kentuckians, we have made some serious mistakes that have to be cured. Sunday on ABC's This Week, Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky's 4th Congressional District, he said this. He does not have any confidence in Attorney General Pam Bondi Oh, wow. Boy, is he siding with the Democrats there. Watch that congressional interview of Bondi, and you will see for yourselves how vicious the Democrats were and wouldn't let her answer any of the questions that they posed to her. And then when it came to Massie, he chose to attack Bondi when over 3.5 million documents have been released by her to the Congress, and none of those same documents were ever released by Obama or Biden. Massie is a disgrace, folks. And I'm speaking not only to the people and my listeners in Kentucky, but around the country, because we need help. He is an embarrassment to the Kentucky Republican Party, and it's time that the party speak up, lest it start losing its base among the Trump supporters here in Kentucky. It's time to speak up, and I'm calling on an investigation of Massie himself. While there is enough in his personal background that is questionable, in a district where his voters voted over 60% for Trump, he is consistently attacking the president. So to all my listeners in the 4th and around Kentucky, pick up a checkbook and start donating to Massie's opponent, Ed Galrin. Do yourself and Kentucky and the nation a favor and rid us of this pathological narcissist Thomas Massie from Kentucky's 4th District. Now, let me circle back to Kentucky's governor for a moment. Remember, this is not just about Kentucky, because what's going on here has a national impact, and that means those of you who are living in Wyoming or Arizona, Ohio or Florida or anywhere else for that matter. Our Governor Beshear on Sunday's CNN State of the Union said that the Trump administration's actions and statements on voting were putting democracy in jeopardy. Kentucky, you voted for Trump by over 60%, and yet you elected this radical leftist governor. Shame on you for allowing the teachers' unions in the state who mentally abuse and indoctrinate your children, and then you do their bidding by electing Beshear twice. So, Kentucky voters, you have really a bad habit of inconsistency, a generally cognitive dissonance in being generally conservative but going brain dead in the voting booth. We have supermajorities in the legislature, and you vote Republican and conservative in every other area. But then you do this weird thing by voting for this radical leftist in Beshear. So Kentucky has a lot to answer for. And given the embarrassments we are suffering at the hands of Beshear and Thomas Massie, we've got to make amends. So what would I have you do? Start confronting and discussing with your family, friends, and associates as to the miserable mistake that's been made with Beshear and Massie, and that we have to take our state back from leftist teachers, professors, and unions. Shame on us. And for my listeners around the country, I will remind you again that elections are now national. They're not local. What happens in Kentucky now is affecting the entire country. Help us get rid of Massie and educate yourselves as to the fraud of our governor pretending to be a moderate and a Christian as he attempts to become your next president. Don't be fooled. Beshear is a Jimmy Carter 2.0. Let's not make this mistake again. Okay, folks, that'll do it for today. Remember, I've talked a lot about Kentucky today, but only because it has tremendous national consequences. You've heard me talk about Schumer of New York, and Pritzker of Illinois, and Swalwell of California. Wherever the liberal and leftist mind virus raises its ugly head, it has to be contended with, and it has to be confronted, and it has to be defeated. So until next time, I'm Jack Richardson for Jack's Corner.